Hello and welcome to another episode of SporTales. Now, this particular story in this episode involves two of the biggest superstars of Indian cricket, two of my favorites. I'm talking about MS Dhoni and Yuvraj Singh, around the same vintage, but took very different paths to make it to the international level. And today's story is pertaining to that. One part of the story, the first bit of the story, I'm sure a lot of you would already know based on a film. And I'll get to that a little later. But the second half of the story is going to be an addition to that story, which a lot of you, in fact, probably none of you would know. The story that I'm talking about is a Cooch Behar match. Cooch Behar, as you know, is a tournament that is played at the under-19 level, and that's where Yuvraj Singh and MS Dhoni first cross each other's path. Now, why we're talking about that is because the record for the highest individual score in Cooch Behar has just been broken by a youngster from Karnataka, Prakhar Chaturvedi. He scored 400 runs in a Cooch Behar game, which is now a record acknowledged by the previous holder of that record, none other than Yuvraj Singh. Yuvraj Singh held that record for the longest time. In fact, he made that record in 1999. That record also saw him, as I mentioned earlier, cross path against an MS Dhoni. Now, for those of you who've seen the MS Dhoni film, you would be familiar with this first part of the story. Now, just to refresh your memory, there's a scene. It's the under-19 Cooch Behar final taking place at the Keenan Stadium in Jamshedpur, which used to be an international venue earlier. Keenan Stadium in Jamshedpur. At that time, you got to remember, Bihar, Jharkhand were one state. So MS Dhoni, playing on his home ground, representing Bihar, was up against a Punjab team which also featured a young Yuvraj Singh. The story, if you remember, and that is actually one of my favorite parts of that film on MS Dhoni, the biopic that was made on MS Dhoni, this encounter, and that story starts on the eve of the game where both teams are at the ground before the match is to start next day. And you have that scene where a young Yuvraj Singh comes on a Yamaha RX 100 motorbike with headphones on his head, parks the bike, gets off. While he gets off, you see the basketball court, which is right next to the cricket ground. You see the Bihar team, which features MS Dhoni playing basketball. And as soon as they see or spot a young Yuvraj Singh, all eyes go onto him and they start looking at him because of the tashan, because of the style that he has, right? Getting off a bike, wearing headphones, carrying his own kit, chewing a gum and walking around with that swagger. And that's where the Bihar team is intimidated by this good-looking, smart, suave, affluent looking because of the things and the gadgets that he's carrying, that boy. And what the aim of that story is in the film is that how a small town boy from Bihar would get intimidated. And the fact that whatever happened in the match, they actually lost the match on the eve of the game because when they saw Yuvraj Singh walk in. And as it happens, the next day when the match starts, MS Dhoni narrates it in the film. It's actually a flashback. So they only show this scene and then they don't show the game. MS Dhoni reaches his home and then his friend comes to ask what is it and how did the match go, and then he narrates it to his friend. And that is, as I said, one of my favorite parts of the film because his narration of exactly how that incident panned out was just incredible. I think all the credit to the director to have thought of it and done it in that manner. And MS Dhoni in that says, telling his friend that, I got 80 odd, we won the toss, Bihar batted first, I got 80 odd and our team got 357, he said. And then it was our turn to field and then Punjab's first wicket fell at 60 runs. Then walks in that same guy who intimidated them, or they got rather intimidated by him on the eve, a certain Yuvraj Singh. He's telling his friend and he says, he made them toil on the field for 2 days, and Yuvraj Singh alone scores one more than the entire team total. Bihar scored 357 and Yuvraj Singh alone scores 358. And I remember in his style, MS Dhoni in that film says, हमारे से एक रन उसने ज़्यादा बनाया, धागा खोल दिया. That was that scene in which he uses this word which became very popular later as well. He said धागा खोल दिया और मेरी तो second innings में batting ही नहीं आई. MS Dhoni is telling his friends. So just to show you that what a big player he was. So that's the bit that we saw in the film. And then I was curious whether all of that things that were shown in the film, I knew that he had got 358, Yuvraj, because that was part of the record. But how much of what was shown in the film was true, or did they take some, liberty in terms of the script writing? And I had the opportunity of asking Yuvraj Singh about that particular scene, and this is what he had to say.
When you saw, what was your first reaction? क्या वो correct representation था, and how did you see that?
I think it really well. I think the swag and I don't know how I walked. It looked nice. और मैं मोटरसाइकिल नहीं था मेरे पास.
अच्छा.
वो obviously थोड़ा और से पॉइंट दिखा दिया गया, वो बंदा मोटरसाइकिल पे है. हम लोग बस में गए थे. I think I don't actually remember, but I remember that we had crossed the team. कौन सा कोर्ट था? टेनिस कोर्ट,
basketball court.
I remember crossing the team, and obviously not much of interaction. I used to wear my headphones a lot. I had a Walkman, and those times we had a Walkman. तो मैं अपनी धुन में ही रहता था, because the only way I could stay away from distraction was listening to music. So I remember probably they walked by and I walked by. And I guess I was scoring a lot of runs in under 19 that time. So शायद उनको लगा होगा कि maybe we have to get him out, or लेकिन वो जो लड़के की एक्टिंग बहुत अच्छी थी. I think he looked quite similar.
Yeah.
But उसने जो बैटिंग की है ना उस मूवी में, बड़ी गंदी शॉटें मारी हैं. उसने कैलेंडर की तरह शॉटें मारी है. मैंने कहा यार इतनी खराब शॉटें मारता हूँ मैं. I don't know how I played for India. ऐसी बैटिंग करके.
So you heard from Yuvraj Singh himself. Pretty much everything that you saw in the film was accurate, apart from the fact that they showed him coming on a bike, which was not possible because he was traveling from Punjab. There was no way he would have had his own two-wheeler. They actually came by bus, get off, and then they play the game. But rest of it was completely true. But now to the second part of the story, which I told you that not a lot of people would know. I had heard that after Yuvraj Singh got those, 357 runs, the record in Cooch Behar, he was out with his friend, out to celebrate. And this was a story that I heard from a lot of people that played local cricket at that time, or were contemporaries of Yuvraj Singh. And because I had the opportunity of asking Yuvraj, I thought I'll confirm from him. What I had heard was that Yuvraj Singh was out with his friends, and his friend said, listen, what a fantastic game you've had. The day the match ended, he said, why don't you pick up the phone? And in those days, you didn't have mobile phones, so you had to go to a PCA booth, STD booth, and just tell your father, because his father, Yuvraj's father, was very strict. Yuvraj Singh would keep a tab on everything that Yuvraj Singh does, what is his score. So his friend said, today you should call up and speak to uncle and tell him you got a 100, 357 runs is what you got. Yuvraj Singh said, are you mad? He's going to be still upset with me, saying that why did I not score a 400? This is the story that I had heard, that this is exactly how it happened. So I thought, let me ask Yuvraj Singh how much of this story was true.
कि जब युवी ने वो 358 रन बनाए थे, तो शाम को जो आपके पंजाब टीममेट्स हैं ना, उन्होंने बोला था कि युवी यार आज तो पापा को फोन करके बता कि आज 350 रन बनाए हैं. And UV told his friend, वो रहने दे यार, आज भी गाली पड़ेंगी, वो कहेंगे 400 क्यों नहीं बनाए. Is that also a true story?
Yeah, definitely that is, because I know my dad so well, and I actually called him after that.
अच्छा.
And he said, क्या किया तूने? तो मैं कहा जी बिहार ने बनाए 357 और मैंने बनाए 358. कहते अच्छा तूने कितने बनाए? मैंने कहा बोल तो रहा हूँ 358. कहते एक रन ज्यादा, बस 400 बनाया. मैंने कहा यार आप बच्चे की जान लोगे. And I think he was actually joking. He was happy with, I'm sure he was happy with 358. So yeah, I definitely remember, because I knew that my dad was never happy with any score I would get. And he would say, I want more, this is not good enough.
So as you heard it, Yuvraj Singh asked him, as I had heard earlier, completely true, why don't you get a 400? But you've also got to understand where his father came from. You know, his father was a fast bowler, only played one match for India, could not realize his ambition of playing for India very long, and I think that's what he wanted to see in his son. He wanted his son to play for India very long. That's why you know the famous story very through Yuvraj Singh skates when he wanted to be a skater, saying you concentrate on cricket. And today Yuvraj acknowledges his father's contribution, acknowledges the fact that if his father wasn't so hard on him, didn't push him that much, probably he wouldn't have been a good player. That particular story is also very interesting about this first encounter between Yuvraj and Dhoni. Also was that catalyst, and why I think it's very important, because that's the moment, that's the particular catalyst that helped you get MS Dhoni in international cricket. Because as MS Dhoni points out, at that time he was one of the best in his area. You know, the standout player, people would come from far away to watch him. But it's only when he got exposed to someone like a Yuvraj Singh, who was so far ahead, roughly the same age in 1999, that MS Dhoni realized that he needs to push the bar higher. And as you know, Yuvraj Singh, 1999 Kuch Bihar Trophy that I'm talking about, gets those runs. A year later makes the debut for India in that tournament in Kenya, and then gets that in his second match, or the first time he goes out to bat for India, gets that outstanding knock he plays versus Australia. So Yuvraj Singh was already there, already international level. MS Dhoni wasn't. And I think that incident that happened between the two of them and the way Yuvraj Singh batted, I think that is what pushed MS Dhoni to raise the bar much higher. And as you know, it took him some time. 2004, I'm talking about 1999, but those few years he worked hard. 2004 is when MS Dhoni made his debut. In fact, it was in December 2004. I was there in Bangladesh when MS made that debut of his, got run out. 2004 he makes his debut. So there was a good 5-year gap. Almost, if you look at it, 2004 and 2005, about a 6-year gap between Yuvraj Singh's debut and MS Dhoni's debut. But I still believe that moment, that Kuch Bihar game, was the turning point in MS Dhoni's career. And if that incident wouldn't have happened, who knows? Would we have had an MS Dhoni play international cricket? That's anyone's guess. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode of SporTales. Subscribe to Sports Today for more such content. And if you enjoyed this episode, do share it with your friends and give us a like too. Bye-bye.